They set up this twist at the very last chapter. It's like, everybody's gonna die. And then 3 pages later, it's like, nah, nobody's gonna die. The Lost Fleet Boundless by Jack Campbell continues the Lost Fleet series that Jack Campbell wrote several years ago. So he wrote The Lost Fleet, which is a collection of like 6 to 8 books or something like that. And then he wrote The Lost Stars. And then he wrote The Genesis Fleet, which is another collection of 6 books.
Prequel.
Now he's coming out with The Lost Fleet, which I believe is the new series called Lost Fleet Outlands.
Which is a continuation of The Lost Fleet, right?
Yeah, which is a continuation of The Lost Fleet. So we were excited to read this one when we heard that it came out, right? We had missed, I guess, the press release that told us, hey, this is coming out. And then you randomly came across it.
Being released.
And I was really excited to read this because actually this, the initial series of novels, The Lost Fleet, started our friendship about a decade ago. I had read it and I loved it, and then we met in college and I had recommended it to you, and then you liked it too, and I knew then that we had a lot in common.
Military history, sci-fi, and then just this book, It's one of your favorites. You let me borrow it, and I think I borrowed it twice.
You read it, gave it back, and you were like, you know what? That was a good book. And the very first one was a really good book, The Lost Fleet. It was called Dauntless, right? Which is his main flagship.
Yep.
And man, it was so good. So it began our friendship so long ago, and now this one finally came out. And you told me about it. We were both excited. I think we read it in like a few days, right?
Because it was just released this month,
In this one, the story picks up where Blackjack is now like the admiral of the Alliance fleet. He has won the war against the Syndics. He goes back to the main central planet of the Alliance called Unity.
Yep.
And the Unity government is afraid he's going to take over, and he's like, bro, don't worry about it, I don't want to take over. And they're like, oh my god, you're going to take over. And he's like, no, just give me a mission and I'll do it, it's fine, I'm going to leave. And so he leaves on a very important mission to escort what's that ship?
Well, the ship is called Boundless, and it's like an emissary ship, like full of politicians, scientists, and like engineers.
And engineers, because in the previous series we learned that there is several alien races out in the frontier, and now they want to send this emissary ship out to begin relations with them.
With one of them that actually worked with them to defeat some other ones.
Yeah, there's 2 bad ones, 1 good one. So now Blackjack must escort this ship out to the fringe of the universe, I guess.
It's like the edge of space where humans stopped expanding because of these aliens.
And that's where the story picks up, is him escorting this ship out to the edge of space. And as we had mentioned before, this is a book that we are supposed to like. It's an action, military, sci-fi book. Did you like this book?
No, this one was good, and just the series, like the previous series, because the author, I think he was a graduate of Annapolis. He was in the Navy before, so a lot of the description of the ships navigating space, and he describes it really well. It reminds me of The Expanse, because there you can see the little thrusters kick in when they're like shifting left or right or doing these crazy maneuvers. It's realistic, not like Star Wars. They just hit, What is it called?
They don't even mention any kind of ship maneuvering in Star Wars.
No, and they always go really fast, but everyone's okay. Nothing happens. Whereas
so
this one,
very, I guess, it's scientific, but it's science fiction, but it's realistic. So I hated this book.
Serious?
Are you surprised? I know. I recommended this book to you a long time ago, and I was supposed to like this book. I was supposed to. Military, science fiction, action, adventure story. I'm supposed to like it. I hate it. The original Dauntless, which is what I really liked, and I still like. Blackjack is woken up from hypersleep, and he is thrown right back into the middle of a battle where all of the officers have disappeared or got killed or taken.
And now
he's the officer. He must take that ship. He must save everybody, and he's fighting people left and right. It is a constant stream of action. In this one, it's just a bunch of procedural, like, government, politics, and military
Definitely a lot of politics.
meetings. It's like if you were at work and you had a series of meetings that day, and then you wrote a book about the series of meetings you had. Like, I met with this person, and then I met with this person, and then this meeting had something interesting about the last meeting, and then I met with this person.
What?
It was just a series of meetings. 90% of this book was him meeting with people, thinking something about it, and then something might have happened, maybe. And the beginning of the book was him going to the Unity planet in the beginning and facing the Unity government.
Well, that part I thought was cool. Not the politics side of it, but just as you mentioned, the Alliance government thinks he's going to go back and take over because he's the admiral controlling all of the military, and he has all the backing of all the worlds. They call him, Blackjack, the hero. Everyone looks up to him, and he just found something out.
Apparently, he's the only guy that shows even a little bit of humanity throughout everything. He's like, should we kill all those civilians on the planet? Apparently, everybody else says yes. He's the only one that says, no, maybe we shouldn't kill the civilians. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's Jesus.
Yeah, because he thinks for the people. Everything he does is for the people. Like, when they think he's going to take over, he's like, I'm just doing my job, man. Like, no, that's your job. Like, why am I going to do your job? So it reminds me of Julius Caesar. After he took over Gaul, he defeated everyone. He has veteran, soldiers and the whole army backing him. When he returns back to Rome, that was everyone's thought. Is he going to try to take over and rule, or is he going to just hand over everything?
The Julius Caesar angle, I think you're right. And that would have been a really good twist to this novel. Him showing up, because the Julius Caesar story, Julius Caesar didn't want to be dictator. He was forced into becoming dictator by a series of events, right? People were so afraid he was going to be a dictator that they blocked him from entering Rome. They took all of his armies away. They stripped him of all of his power, and he was left with no choice but to literally come back and invade so that he could keep what he's won.
Yeah.
That's not the case
and
here.
Everything he did was for the people, too. They got a lot of wealth. Everyone was thriving. So they backed them as well, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, the people, the role was behind them.
Yeah, let's forget about Julius Caesar's genocide in Gaul. That's totally fine. So Blackjack comes back. He's like, no, I don't want to take over. Just give me a mission. And so there's like an assassination attempt. Even the summary of the book really plays up that assassination attempt. When he goes to the government. There's 2 assassination attempts right at the beginning of the book that I suppose is supposed to build suspense, but is nothing more than him like freezing because a drone is diving towards him. And he's like, should I jump out of the way? And before he even makes a decision, the drone blows up.
Well, the
crisis averted.
The Marines shoot it.
What is the tension here?
But even that, he explains how out in space, he could see attacks coming from a long distance. He has time to make a decision last minute. Where here,
he freezes.
He's out of his natural realm.
He's out of his depth.
Comfort.
He freezes, and everybody again loves him for it for some reason.
He showed no fear.
Also, by military tactic standards, like if you have a high value target that you're supposed to defend, why would you put him out in the open?
He had to get to the building.
I'm pretty sure there's a parking structure.
I don't know. This is the future, man.
They could have just parked in a parking structure, totally covered,
like
totally secure, like a concert, and he could have just walked into the building unharmed.
Well, yeah.
Instead, they just put him out in the open where any sniper could have shot him, which is the second assassination attempt.
But at the same time, they want him out in the public to show, because the government was like at the fringe of like rebellion, right? So they want to show that everything is good. He's there. He's not trying to take over. He's for the people. But at the same time, try not to give him too much, bodyguards or whatever to escort him, because it might seem that he's using the military force,
But again, that's fine.
I don't know. It was too political. Yes, I guess
it was too political, and then not political enough. Like it tried to be Game of Thrones, except I didn't care about what happened and nobody was interested.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You see what I mean? Like there's nothing to say about it. Like he goes there, he has a series of meetings where he meets with different people, and then he goes out on a mission. And the reason I read this book is because in the original series, you can tell I'm passionate about this. In the original series, he meets that alien race at the end, right?
Yep.
And so now that the Syndics, the main bad guys, are defeated, the aliens are the most interesting part of this storyline.
Yeah.
And that's why I read it. I read it because I was like, great, Blackjack has nothing else to worry about now. He can go talk to those aliens, maybe shoot it out with them. Some interesting space combat is going to happen.
Yeah, because
that doesn't happen in this book. No aliens appear in this book.
That was his mission. They're like, cool, he's going to meet them, they're going to join up, something's going to happen.
So
obviously not enough.
I showed up to this book for some alien combat action. It did not happen.
Oh,
fine. Secondarily to that, I should show up and get space combat action.
There was a little bit.
Which doesn't happen.
There was a little bit.
What, the space combat?
Yeah.
But where does it happen? The last 5% of the 95% of the novel's meetings and thinking about something might happen.
We both agree at that.
And then the last 5% is action. Is the action we came for.
But even that action was, I enjoyed it, but it was quick. Compared to the other series that there was non-stop action, there was danger every corner.
And Blackjack was really put to the test in the first series of novels because he was just a captain. He had to use limited resources to get out of very bad situations, and he was constantly tested. In this one, he's never tested. We never get to see him develop or change as a character or be challenged in any way.
You do get to learn more about him, though.
Yes, he goes back to his homeworld, but that's just another series of media too.
Well, that's the Genesis Fleet. Where if you read it...
No, I didn't read it. You read the Genesis Fleet, right?
Yeah.
I read the original Lost Fleet, and you read the Genesis Fleet as well.
Yep.
I didn't read that one.
So reading the Genesis Fleet helps you understand a little more, but I'm just saying this book helped you learn more about the man.
Okay.
The way he thought, the way he saw people, like...
So you're saying the Genesis Fleet is more of a back history on his family?
Correct.
Because I felt like when he went home to his home planet in this one, and he like goes into his house and there's like a shrine to his family,
yep.
I was like, why?
There's a shrine.
I don't care.
And they talk about relations with the Marines. Like
so you're saying the Genesis Fleet really speaks to that scene?
To the family history, the way they are, to how the relationship with the Marines, because there's like a mutual respect with the Marines, and then his side of the family and the Navy, or, you know, what do you call it? Navy, Air Force? What is it in space?
I think
Space Force?
I think they
Space Force?
I think now they would be called Space Force. But I think they consider themselves the Navy.
Like the Navy, yeah. It really explains and helps you link things together. It adds a little. I wouldn't say enough to change your mind.
It's really only like one chapter anyway.
But it just tells you more about the man.
Okay, so it speaks to like hardcore fans of the series that read the Genesis Fleet. Because I didn't read it. When I read it, it was again a series of meetings. Instead of like political and military meetings, it was now him going to a bunch of like banquets in honor of him, right? Yeah. And nothing interesting happens. He talks to like some old people, some veterans, like that's all that happens. It's not interesting.
Yeah, and talking to politicians, just trying to outmaneuver each other and
wordplay, outmaneuvering politicians, which he's not very good at.
That I enjoy because I just try to put that in my personal life. Like when I go somewhere and someone's smiling at me, there's a lot of talk about smiling faces. Him not trusting smiling faces. I think the captain told him that when he said, "Who's on this building? Who am I going to talk to?" And he just said, "Smiling faces." I don't know if that's a military thing.
I don't think a smiling face is a military thing. I didn't encounter a lot of smiling faces in the military, so I don't think it is. I think what he's referring to is smiling faces in politics, right? Politicians like to smile at you when they're stabbing you in the back.
Yep.
So if this was going to be a political thriller where Blackjack is now challenged by the political system in the Alliance, that would have been totally fine. Set up some interesting characters, set up some real, like, risks that he has to face. But otherwise, it's not, the political thriller aspect is completely lost because there's nobody interesting that he faces. There's very little, like, word.
The Tigers were kind of interesting.
But they were military. They weren't political.
Oh, you're talking about political?
Yeah. It's a weird setup because in the very beginning, he goes to the Unity planet and he makes a big deal about, like, politicians trying to stab him in the back, and nothing really happens.
Because usually everyone that he meets, they support him. It's just like Commodore, I forgot her name, but she's now with the Free Republic of, what is it?
Midway or something.
Midway. She was a former Alliance, worked with the Syndics, now she's Midway.
So exactly.
She's a politician, but she was military before.
She was military too. So, and again, that's a good example. So that Commodore that he meets doesn't challenge him either. because they have a history together, and she kind of just falls in with Blackjack because she knows that he helps people, right? Everybody he meets now knows that he helps people. So there's never a challenge for him, even when he finally goes to the planet called Kane, or the Kane system.
Well, they were...
and they finally engage in that single battle they have. He shows up with overwhelming force. So there's no risk to him and no challenge for him.
There is a twist, but... we'll leave that to the readers.
And it seems like a forced twist because I felt like the author knew there was nothing and he had to add something. So he inserted a twist. I don't know if we want to kill it.
Nah. Yeah,
and
that's
then,
true. There is no...
You know what? Screw that. I'm going to ruin this book.
What?
There is another twist at the very, very end. It's like the last chapter, right?
Oh, the doctor?
So the very last chapter, one of the doctors he's traveling with goes crazy, and you can kind of see it going on throughout the book. And he snaps and he sets some things in motion where the ship that Geary is on is going to explode, and then the gate is also going to explode and destroy everything. He's basically going to destroy everything in this solar system. Yeah. And it's like a last-minute twist that happens. And then it's resolved 4 paragraphs later.
Someone walks in.
They set up this twist at the very last chapter. It's like, everybody's going to die. And then 3 pages later, it's like, nah, nobody's going to die.
Yeah, someone literally walks in and says, we're cool, bye. Like, what? Don't worry about it, we're good. You know how sometimes you read books and I don't know if you do it, I think a lot of people do it, you automatically put like a face to the character.
Yeah.
Right? Whose face did you put on the doctor?
Couture, the crazy one?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. For some reason, I pictured him like beard, maybe like Matt Damon with a beard, I pictured him.
No, but the New Ninja Turtles, what's his name that does all those Medea movies, that actor?
Oh, yeah.
Well, his character in Ninja Turtles, that scientist, was like stuttering, he thinks he's all cool, he's always smiling, and, like a dork. He seemed fairly competent, but he bugs out in the middle, and we don't really see much of him. You know who was interesting? There is another lead scientist, xenobiologist or something, that's studying the aliens, and they send him, and he's like very rough with everyone, and he's like, don't call them. What happened to that? Yeah.
He was interesting because he gave Geary a challenge, right?
Yeah.
He was an interesting character because he was just like very, I guess, irascible is the term, and he was like very adamant about himself being right and everybody else being wrong, and nobody else should talk to the aliens. Only he should talk to the aliens. Yeah, you're right. Everybody is stupid. Tell me how interesting it would have been if him and Geary had more conversations.
That is true. Because the Admiral was like, I literally talked to these aliens, and so did my people. But that guy's like, but you don't have a doctorate degree.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. It's like, but I literally...
He's like, do me a favor, never talk to the aliens again.
Yeah.
So Blackjack is very like... he's intelligent and he's methodical and he thinks through things, but that doctor was just like so arrogant, and it would have been hilarious to see several scenes of them trying to figure out a way through.
Well, there's more books to come, so hopefully they bring that back.
So that takes me to my next point. What the author likes to do is give the reader a single mission, right? Or not the reader. He likes to give Blackjack a single mission and then stretch out that mission throughout like 6 to 8 books. So in this one, Blackjack is supposed to take Boundless, that emissary ship, to the aliens. That's what we all came for. We thought Blackjack was going to meet the aliens.
To Midway, and eventually the ultimate goal was the aliens. Yeah.
I guarantee you it's going to take 6 to 8 books before we even see the whisper of an alien. Because in the previous books, remember, every book was essentially him jumping to one star system.
And then fighting it out.
And then the book ends. And then the next book is him jumping to the next star system and fighting it out.
Almost dying, fighting it out, figuring it out.
So in this one, the same thing happens, right? He goes from Unity to Midway, and then to Kane, fights a battle, book's over. He's got several more systems to get through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I make you not want to read the next one?
No, now I gotta read it again just to see what you're seeing.
You're gonna read Boundless again? Good luck. You know what really upsets me?
I think it was a good build-up, but yeah, it's like the main thing we wanted to see didn't happen.
Yeah, right? You came for aliens.
Yeah.
We came for aliens, we came for space action.
Yeah, and most of the book was people saying, "You're gonna take over, aren't you?" He's like, "No, I don't want to take over. You're gonna take over, aren't you?"
Yeah. How many times did he say that? You're gonna take over. No.
You're gonna take over, aren't you?
No.
You're gonna take over, aren't you?
No.
You're here to take over the government.
No.
Are you gonna take over?
No.
Real question. Are you taking over Unity and the Alliance?
All right. Real talk?
Yeah.
No. So you know what really irritates me about this book is that now I have to read book 2 because I'm in it for the aliens. Like, I gotta get there. I really want to see more action, and I'm hoping book 2 will put Geary in the middle of the action. We don't have to go through any of this political garbage where he's just in a bunch of meetings.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully there's more action. Because there was a little bit, and there was some parts that reminded, at least me, of the Lost Fleet series with the maneuvering and the timing, and there's a side, thing that's going to happen if this doesn't happen. But it was very brief.
I mean, if you like very dry maneuvering, then great, read the series, because he talks about like ships moving like port 20 degrees and then up 9 degrees, and that's the gist of the action. Like, and then
quite a bit.
The ships, when they pass in space, they only pass for like a fraction of a second, so all of the firing maneuvers are done by computers. Yes. So they pass really quick, shooting happens, and then they kind of just wince and see like who survives
until the
at the
reports
end.
come in.
Yeah,
like
like
damage and hits. And
there's nobody ever like firing a cannon or like anything like that. It's basically Blackjack giving a bunch of technical descriptions about what he wants done, and then everything happening very quickly, and then just dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah, if you could imagine it, it's awesome.
I like
think
it.
The Expanse.
I for some reason have seen my reading preferences change over the years with this series. Again, 10 years ago, I read it and I loved it, and now I read the same style of book, and I'm just like, this is garbage. I guess I'll read book 2 because I have to. I'm invested. I do want to know eventually what happens, but dear God, make it interesting.
All the tanks are ready.